Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 2 on Draftkings is here, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the guys that I think are the top running backs in Week 2 of NFL DFS. We're going to take a look at the guys that are 5 box running backs, as you can see right over there on the thumbnail. The 5 boxes for me, I define as players who have an expectation of 20 touches, who should be involved in the passing game, get the inside the 5 work, which is extremely important. If you want to win tournaments, you got to get a lot of touchdowns, are at home and are favored. Now, does that mean you can't play running backs that aren't at home? No, that's not what it means. If they don't have all 5 boxes checked off, does that mean you can't play them? No, that's not what it means. It's just an easy way for you to look up and down the list of all the running backs and possibly identify somebody who might be under rostered or underplayed for that coming week. Things that you can look for, because those 5 different things tend to lead to more success over the fantasy projection than any other 5 statistics at the position. If a player has all 5 of those boxes checked off, they are probably in line to score a lot of fantasy points that day. And if the crowd isn't going to be on them, but that's what you're looking for, that is the way to find fantasy success. If you guys like this content, I would appreciate it personally if you do a few things that cost you absolutely no money. 1, drop a like on the video. 2, subscribe to the channel. 3, ring the notifications bell. And number 4, leave me a reply down below with a running back that you think is going to be sneaky in week 2. Other than that, let's go.
He's a legend.
The Smiz Gang Listener League moves on to week 2. Congratulations to our winner last week, Battle Axe, who took it down when it was a 4,000 person tournament. We didn't fill it, so they made it smaller, but also they made it bigger. So instead of being a $5 3 max with no rake, it is now a $10 3 max with no rake. Instead of 4,000 entry spots, there's only 2,500. So make sure that you get into this listener league. There is absolutely no service fee. That is what rake means. There is no service fee on this tournament from DraftKings. So that means less of your money goes away. More of your money goes to the prize pool and to the winners of this tournament. It's going to pay out just over 20% of the field, $2,500 to first place. You're not going to find a better tournament out there in daily fantasy NFL. So jump in our listener league. The link is right down below in the comments. No, sorry, in the description. Click show more. You will find the links to the listener league, the Tiltify donation link for No Kid Hungry, as well as all of my socials and any discounts that we have on all the sites that we're affiliated with. Let's get to the top running backs on this slate. The cover boy was Chris Carson, so let's talk about him right now. This game has the highest total as of Tuesday morning when I'm recording this, the highest total on the entire slate. 53.5 expected points. The Seahawks are 5.5 point favorites. Chris Carson does project to get 20 touches in this game, as he does most games. They do like to run the ball. He is very efficient at running the ball. They have a great matchup against the Tennessee Titans. He gets the ball inside the 5. Great spot for Chris Carson. I do not expect him to be extremely sneaky. I think that there's going to be a crowd of people on him. We're going to have to wait and see how projections for, rostership is going to play out by the end of the week. We do our 5 under 5 video every Saturday that goes live. We record that Friday live on Twitch. I'm live 6 days a week on Twitch. The schedule is posted in the community tab on YouTube. Go check it out. It'll tell you when I'm live Monday through Friday and on Sunday mornings. So Chris Carson, a great spot here. And I think a lot of people are going to be on the passing game. So finding a combination where maybe you're using Chris Carson and bringing him back with one of the Tennessee passing game players would be a way to go if you're playing Tannehill stacks. Coming back with Chris Carson, clearly a way to use as a bring back player in Tannehill stacks as well. Second player I want to talk about is Nick Chubb. Is Nick Chubb going to be utilized in the passing game the same way that he was after coming back from injury last season when he averaged like 3.5 targets per game? Now, historically, he has not been somebody that we have used as a 5-box running back, because he was never really somebody who had inclusion in the passing game. Now, he only got 2 targets in week 1. Understandable. Based on, the game situation, everything else that there was. That was a game that they were going to have to throw the ball a lot to be effective. They try to establish the run as often as possible. An 18-yard long for him. He is one of the top 2 players in terms of breaking off chunk runs in the league. It's basically Nick Chubb and it's Derrick Henry. They have a matchup with Houston, which is not going to get much better because Houston is pretty darn terrible. I don't care how they looked last week against Jacksonville, another terrible defensive team that we're going to be attacking all season long. They're playing at home. They're the biggest favorites on the board this week at 11.5 points. The total in this game is 48, which means that they have an expectation of points, an implied team total, do the Browns, of 30 plus, like 30.5 right now. If we were to go look at what the spreads were for this game, just an absolute smash spot for Nick Chubb on all the reasons, right? Every box is checked off on those 5, and you can add a fantastic matchup. Running backs tend to outperform fantasy expectation when they're at home and favored by a touchdown or more for obvious reasons. Hopefully they include him in the passing game as much as they did in week 1 as a floor, and hopefully as much as they did last season when he was getting between 3 and 6 targets on a game in, game out basis would drastically improve Nick Chubb's week in, week out floor, because his ceiling is as high as anybody's because of his big play, big splash ability on this Browns team. Austin Ekeler. The concern with Austin Ekeler, what a stupid week 1 was for Austin Ekeler. First of all, it was a ridiculous matchup against the Washington football team, who is one of the best defenses in the league. Not shocking to see a team like that, a team like the Chargers scheme against a defense like that to do things differently. Usually you would throw the ball to your running back more often in those situations if the front 7 is super good on the team that you're facing, but they threw it to him no times. The one problem with Austin Ekeler over the years is that he has not gotten the ball inside the 5, but with the regime change that they have in Los Angeles, they gave him 2 inside the 5 carries in week 1. That's extremely promising. Another 5-box running back. We were thin on 5-box running backs in week 1. We really aren't thin on them here in week 2. This is my favorite game of the slate. It's probably going to be everybody's favorite game on the slate. Any game involving the Dallas Cowboys, probably going to be my favorite game on the slate to attack, to stack, to secondary stack, to super stack, to game stack, to play in cash, all of that. The Fantasy Carnival, as long as Dak is under center, is back in town. Dallas has this incredibly efficient offense, which is going to put points on the board. And they have this terribly inefficient defense, which is going to allow opponents to put points on the board, which means that both teams are going to go back and forth and score points. And Dallas projects to throw it like 50 plus times a game, which means that there's more plays per game. Both of these teams project to play fast. This is a ridiculous spot for Austin Ekeler. And when you add in those inside the 5 carries, now he has this massive floor based on how he's been used in the passing game historically, week 1 excluded, and now has touchdown ceiling on top of that because of how they deployed him throughout the preseason, in camp, and in week 1 in terms of their short yardage inside the 5 packages. So Austin Ekeler, massive play. David Montgomery. I'm old enough to remember draft season of 2021 when everybody said that David Montgomery was not going to be good because he just faced this ridiculous run-in in 2020, and it was only good because of the matchups that he had, and he wasn't going to get the ball, and he wasn't going to get targeted as much, and he wasn't going to have all these things happen. I am the type who tends to like Olympic gymnastics scoring or Olympic diving scoring, for those of you who watched the Olympics this summer or just know because you're sports fans. I tend to throw out the highest, best matchup and the lowest or worst matchup. The Los Angeles Rams defense is going to be one of the toughest matchups for opponents' passing games and running games all year long. The Rams should score a lot of points, and they have an extremely stingy defense. As a result, players are going to probably have bad games fantasy-wise against the Rams. David Montgomery had anything but 16 carries, 108 yards, got you the bonus on DraftKings. A long of 41 yards, so big playability. Looked really good on every run. One of the best in the league in terms of breaking tackles. The Bears are at home and favored in this game against Cincinnati, who performed well, I suppose, against Dalvin Cook, allowing, keeping him to like 3 yards a carry, but he still got a ton of usage. I expect Montgomery's targets to go up in this game. He is not going to get 85-90% of the running back snaps or carries, but that's never going to be the case with David Montgomery or most running backs in the NFL. 80 is supremely high. But if he's the 65% guy, with Williams being the 35% guy behind him, a 3-point favorite Total of 45 in this game. Checks off every box. Should get more than one target in this game, in game 2. That the game plan that they had with in week 1 was just awful. Go read my Twitter feed if you really want to see how I feel about how the Bears attacked that game and what they were doing. Like, if they attack more downfield with Dalton, or hopefully with Fields at some point, that will open up a whole lot more. And when they go to Fields, that's going to even open up David Montgomery a little bit more, though it may take away some inside the 5 carries from him, because they're going to run some gadget plays for Fields. Still, a 5-box running back here again at 6,100 is just too cheap. Najee Harris, favored at home. 6-point favorites are the Steelers against the Raiders defense. I think Raiders defense has to have a question mark after it. 48.5 points here in this spot. We watched the Ravens, albeit the Ravens are a different offense than basically everybody else in the league. So, like, you can't say how many rushing yards they gave up, because quarterback's going to run for a ton, and then but their running backs also looked amazing. If Harris gets the amount of service in every single week, I think it's impossible for him to play 100% of snaps. The only thing close to that we've seen over an entire season was 2 years ago, when Christian McCaffrey handled like 98.5% of the snaps and running back touches for the Carolina Panthers. Najee Harris looks like he's going to be utilized or deployed in that same manner. So he's going to have some massive spike weeks, and against Las Vegas in Pittsburgh, while favored, does predict to be one of those. He's not going to run for 2.5 yards a carry every week. He's going to get more than 3 targets, let's just say. And one of those targets was inside the 5-yard line. So clearly Ben trusts him inside when they get close, but he overthrew that pass and he had to jump and try and touch. It was a bad throw. 5.9 points, I think, is going to make people, when they look at this box score, massively overreact and say, you know what? Maybe Harris isn't ready. Maybe he's not as good as everybody says. Maybe running backs don't matter. Maybe we shouldn't play him. 6,300 for the amount of volume that you're going to get against a defense like this, with all 5 boxes checked. Too much to ignore. Leonard Fournette appears to be at least a 4-box and maybe a 5-box running back based on his usage in the passing game, the fact that he is the inside the 5 guy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are favored by 13 freaking points and have a team total above 30. He's the running back that they trust. Rojo is the brother that gets blamed for everything and gets grounded immediately. And Leonard Fournette gets a pass for all of these things. So if he's going to be the running back who's going to be on the field the most for Tampa Bay, he is the running back that I want to play the most on Tampa Bay. Now, I think that, personally, that this is the discussion that we kind of need to have. I think that Rojo is the better back. And that's not worth a damn hill of beans. What I think about these players' talent levels does not matter. All that matters to me is projectable usage and playing time. And based on the fact that Arians and Brady can't stand Ronald Jones, and the second that he makes one mistake, he gets yanked, and Fournette gets to drop passes or whatever, and he gets more playing time and doesn't get yanked off the field, means that he's the back that I want to roster. If I'm going to play one of the backs from that team this week, 5,100 for Fournette seems like he's going to be a good tournament play, because most people aren't going to be on him, right? He does have an outside potential of getting that 20 touches, so maybe not a 5-box running back, but they are at home. They are favored. He is included in the passing game, and he does get the inside the 5 carries. If he touches 20 touches, he immediately becomes a 5-box running back. Those targets are worth more than carries. If he gets you 15 carries and 6 or 7 targets, being the main guy that they utilize in the passing game, they bring in Gio for like 2-minute drill stuff, but Leonard Fournette gets thrown the ball a ton by Tom Brady, as he does like to spread it around. Fournette has more value than people are willing to admit. Now, if Fournette and Gio are out, I will be all on that Rojo train with all of you guys who have been fanboys for the last 2 draft seasons. But until that point, I'm going to go with the guy that they want to play, and right now that guy is Fournette. A couple of other running backs who aren't 5-box guys but are great plays this week. Christian McCaffrey. I've been asked by about 5 different people in chat so far on Monday and Tuesday, are you worried about the matchup with the Saints defense for McCaffrey? No. In the last the last 4 years, I think he's played them 6 times, and yes, Christian McCaffrey has averaged 3 less fantasy points per game in PPR against the Saints than he has against the rest of the league. He still averages like 30 points a game, though, over those 63 games. So maybe he'll have 28 fantasy points this week. The guy scored 27 points on DraftKings in week 1, did not get 100 yards rushing or receiving, though as you can see right there, he challenged for both of them, did not score a touchdown in week 1. He has averaged more catches and more targets per game against the Saints than he has in games versus the rest of the league. He just hasn't carried the ball as much because typically they're losing to the Saints. This is another great spot for Christian McCaffrey. Guess what, guys? Every week is a great spot for Christian McCaffrey. You don't need him to be a 5-box running back. You don't need him to be at home or favored. He is a game flow independent guy. He has a chance to get either of the bonuses every single week. And he has been one of the league leaders on inside the 5 carries the last 3 full seasons that he's played. Smash play every week. He should be 10.5 to 11,000. He's not. I still think he's too cheap. And if you can find the value, and I kind of think that you can at other positions, he is still one of the primary plays on the week for me every week, especially in cash games. Ezekiel Elliott on the other side of the Austin Ekeler play, not at home, not favored, but I think this is a great bounce back spot where people are going to run away from Zeke Elliott because of how they played in week 1. This is a different spot. Week 1, they played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who mute opposing running backs, have a really great pass rush, and so Ezekiel Elliott is their preferred back in terms of run blocking, in terms of running the ball. He has been one of the league leaders the last 3 seasons, if not the league leader the last 3 seasons, when it comes to inside the 5 carries. As long as Dak's under center, there's going to be plenty of opportunity. There's going to be plenty of swing passes to him where he does not have to stay in and block this week versus last week. I think that these numbers are going to drastically bounce as the Chargers defense is not as good as Dallas's defense. And looking at that week 1 stuff, Fantasy Football Twitter loves Tony Pollard. I myself love Tony Pollard. I drafted him in all of my running back and chill drafts, all of my hero running back, my zero running back drafts. He was a target for me all draft season, right? But I drafted him as a 40% guy. He's still that. He's a 35, 40% guy who's going to get utilized, but not as much as Ezekiel Elliott, and definitely not as much in the high leverage inside the 5 carry situation. So in a game that has a total of 53 points, but could realistically have 60 to 75 when it's all said and done, if they score that many points, if this is a 35 to 32 game, Ezekiel Elliott's going to post fantasy stats. He's going to post a big number on DraftKings, and he's only 6,200. Thank you guys for watching. Look out for another video tomorrow when I got the cage match going up against Jeff Collins, Jeff El Jefe, 2-time $1 million winner. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.
He's a legend.